And welcome back.
Welcome back to what?
Mainville ATV and Outdoors.
What if this is the intro? It wouldn't be welcome back.
Welcome back from our last video.
Okay. Well, hopefully you've been watching other videos. So, we have a lot going on for the bike, and it's all kind of at the same time, which is a good thing, just because if I had to tear into the bike 4 or 5 separate times to be ultimately in the same location, that'd be annoying. So, we have 4 or 5 things to do to the bike. A strong majority of it is to the front end. And just my wife made a great suggestion. See, compliments.
On camera.
All right. And yeah, I'm going to be in the same place. You'll notice that a lot of the work might be happening at the same time, but we're going to focus on upgrades individually just because there might be good information for you guys and other people who want to search for that specific upgrade, and I can reference them to that. So if you see me doing something, you know, and there's something else going on, just know that there's another video for that. And we'll release them fairly quickly just to have them out there for you folks, because people really like our shop videos, and I hope you guys pick up something. I might not know everything, but I'm learning as I go along, and I just like to share whatever I have learned, because there's a lot of little frustrations I find with ATVs when you're working on them.
Yeah, me too.
Cass always jokes that I'm the maintenance fairy, just like she's the toilet paper fairy. And then just stuff miraculously happens around the house. We were living here for like a year, and I was like, man, we're really good on toilet paper. And Cass got so mad at me because it turns out she was always filling up the toilet paper.
And buying it. He thought we went like 5 months without buying
I don't know how
toilet
much you
paper.
bought. We have a closet just
Every
full
time
of
I do
toilet
groceries.
paper. Anyway, before we have a marital dispute, yeah, so I'm the maintenance fairy, and
Yeah, I'm the toilet paper fairy.
yeah.
Grocery fairy.
Cass just shows up and gets to ride. I think I'm going to start doing toilet paper there shortly, and she can start doing some maintenance, I think. But yeah, what were we talking about at this point?
Let's get into
We're
the
so professional.
flux capacitor tie rod things.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. We're going to start disassembling the bike. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of different things, but this will be the first video, and I'm probably just going to start with tearing down the bike because we have to get into a lot of stuff. Nothing too crazy, nothing too big, but definitely needed and really nice upgrades. So Dirty Life is really keeping care of us. I had a lot of requests, and he's always pulling through on some pretty awesome products. So stay tuned, and we'll see what happens with the series, and I hope you enjoy.
Just a smile. I was just smiling for the
Oh,
camera.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, so first step for me is I've got a bunch of little brake line attachments here. These are Super ATV high clearance arms. So before 2019 and 2020, which had high clearance arms right from stock, I didn't. So Dirty Life got me these Super ATV high clearance arms. They also move the hub forward 1.5 inches. So if you're a little confused as to what you're seeing, if you're following any of this specifically for work, then you'll know that this is different from what you have stock, just in case you're wondering. But I just have 2 brake lines mounts to remove, and once I've got that done, I'll pull off the caliper. The caliper and hub didn't change. That's a 215 mil bolts at the back, super easy to get, especially if you have ratcheting wrenches. I highly suggest them for any job, really. I use them so often. We'll pull that off, and so I've got 23 or 2400 kilometers, I'm not sure exactly, but definitely up there. And these pads are absolutely stock. At first glance, it looks like I still have some life, but my inner pad is a little more eaten. And that's to be expected because the inner pad is the first one that actually grabs the rotor itself, so it's always the one that takes the brunt of the braking force. So you should have that one more worn than the other, because the cylinder will actually compress and then draw in the full caliper on both sides. But the first one to touch and grab onto the rotor is your inner or cylinder side pad. That's pretty standard in a lot of applications, but so that's off. You should be able to take a look at that. So by the looks of things, my outer pad is definitely larger. It's probably somewhere in the 70-60% ballpark by my guess. But my inner is maybe 30-40% left. So believe it or not, these pads are still working quite all right, which is pretty impressive actually, considering a lot of people were telling me they get 200-300 kilometers out of their pads, and I might be speaking too soon, but there's still 2 other brakes to take a look at. So that's pretty interesting. So I might not be doing pads. The front set of brakes should take most of the wear. There's only one in the rear. I don't know if there's actually like a 60-40 split hydraulic or something like that, but so far so good anyway. So to catch you up to speed in the teardown of the front end here, I removed the fender plastics. I took off all the bolts for the front fascia here, because when you're getting at some of these A-arm bolts, because these are all coming out, I'm going to be going in from behind this plastic here to get some of these bolts, so that all has to come out. And it's kind of nice because I can get all the grime that builds up over time. Ultimately, these A-arms are coming out, that diff's coming out. We're going to have bushings and ball joints and torque locker and tie rods and all sorts of great stuff. So that's kind of where we're headed. All of this has to come out of here. It's really straightforward and simple. Everything's metric. It's just a handful of tools. You're going to see me pull a lot of them out because I have preferences, or sometimes a tight spot demands a different kind of 14 mil or whatever. So a lot of this is going to be torn out of here, and now you know what's really going on. Next step is these hubs here. So the axle nut, they're torqued to 150 foot-pounds, these ones here. So I take this cap off and I reef that nut off there, and then this whole hub and everything we start working on disassembling. Fun little tip for some of you that may not be mechanically inclined. When you're getting into a project with lots of little pieces and little bolts like this guy here, I just put them back in their location as long as it's not going to get in the way of what you're doing. So I just loosely put them back. That way you can't lose them, or at least lower the odds of losing them. So there's plenty of dirt and grime and buildup over time. I watch this thing religiously, but it still happens. So pretty excited. We're going to continue on here. I'll find you a bird's eye view of what's going to happen next. So next part of the teardown is to take your studs and rotor off here. Just slides right off. You can see the bearing and everything in your hub. You're going to have an upper ball joint, lower ball joint, and your tie rod and your shock. Once you have all of those off, you can pull the axle out of there, and you're pretty much complete your tear down. I make it sound easy, but there's some pretty annoying bolts when it comes to some of these mounts. These Super ATV arms it was just a hair off, so some of these ended up fighting me a little bit, but it's not a big deal. Once I get this hub end done, I'm going to do the same on the other side because I've already got the tools for it. And then I'll end up putting the shocks out back and getting into some of the actual mount bolts and stuff like that. But once all this is out of here, I don't have a press here and I don't really feel like fighting for it, so I'm going to bring these into Can-Am, which is 2 minutes from my place, get ball joints in them. I have the garage product bushings to go in there, and that's what I'm going to focus on, and pull these tie rods completely out so that I can get a rough estimate on the length I need for the high lift or heim joint ones. So a lot of little things are going to be going on at the same time. Hopefully I don't make it too confusing for you guys, but once I have the teardown complete, I'll start talking about what the videos will be from then on. But just to show you what to expect, what to kind of look at while you're already in here. There's a few surprises for sure. So I've already prepped a lot of this just because no one has time for it, but I pulled out all the little cotter pins everywhere. I'm going to start with the tie rod end, which is a 19 mil nut, and you'll need the 15 holding the top of it so you can actually remove the nut without spinning the little ball joint. So once you've got that off, you can swing it out of the way and actually get to the upper and lower ball joints for the hub. And then just manhandle it a bit. And like I was saying earlier, just take the stuff that was already on it, as long as it's not in your way, put it back where it belongs. I can't remember what order to do this in exactly, but we're going to take our 19 on top and lefty-loosey. We're going to slowly do that. And we should be able to tighter than a nut. Run that off. It's hot, wife.
You're hot, wife.
What?
That's what you meant to say. No, I'm just kidding.
No?
No? Gross. Speaking of gross. Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's some history in there. Luckily everything's getting torn out of here, so I'll be able to get some of that annual teardown grind. There, I got that. Keep like things with each other.
Scott's coming over in a bit.
I may have to pull the top before I actually do that. Scott! Scott's coming over. That's exciting.
Yeah.
I'll get the bottom off. I've done this a fair amount of times. And before everyone makes a joke that Can-Am's always broken, it's really not. I'm having a great time with it, and it might be because I'm just upgrading everything before it breaks. I cannot deny or confirm that theory, but
I'm gonna move my face.
that's probably a good idea, White. It's one of my favorite features of you.
Oh yeah?
True. True story.
I've heard differently.
Did you know? You know everyone's gonna guess now what my favorite part of you is.
Comment below.
It's actually your mind. Your strong
My soul.
brain. Yeah, your soul. There's no way it's a physical feature. That's disgusting.
How about my liver? or my...
My plan was for all of this mechanical work to go smoothly, but I think I'll just stop the camera and...
Pretend it happened smoothly?
Yeah. Basically.
3 seconds later.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's like 4 hours.
3 seconds later. Okay, so I ripped the shock tower out of there real quick. That's pretty easy, like I was saying. Now the next part of the teardown, I just got this hub is actually really on the top ball joint here, but I'll smash that off in a second. And then we just gotta pull that out. So there's that. There are some minor differences in axles, so pay attention to that. Just keep things in order. Behind the bike, I have it all correctly sized and everything like that. So everything's coming out of here for the most part, so I might as well tear everything out. Funny enough, these axles are in great shape. The 2018 axles, I don't know why, but they are incredible. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they broke tomorrow, but they feel great still and everything. Boots are in good shape. I'm actually pretty impressed that way. But now I just got to bang this hub off this side, and I'm going to repeat the process on the other side, which you don't need to see because it's the exact same but opposite. And then we move into the next part of actually removing the A-arms for all the work I need to do and bushings and whatnots. And then it's going to be removing the front diff. And on the way back in altogether, I'm going to be doing a bunch of little video clips of what's going on, why I chose to do what I'm doing, why these upgrades are great. Some of them I would say aren't needed, but if you're already going to replace something like your tie rods, for example, you can replace them, if not the same price, even a little bit cheaper, to have an upgraded Heim joint setup from Dirty Life. So I'm not saying replace your parts right now, but even though they're in good shape, what I'm saying is if you are going to replace them, consider your options. There's lots to see. The aftermarket's really great, and Dirty Life seems to be collecting all of the goodies. So normally I don't recommend a pickle fork, but when you're running into this situation where your hub won't come off and you already don't care about your ball joint, then I have no problem using it. What it does is just separates whatever your ball joint's into. So what you want to do is you want to grab your friggin' buddy, okay? It's my super secret tire unbeater. It has many names, but Tim the 2x6, whatever you want. So you set this thing up, and then you just go to pound town.
Excuse me.
Way to go, camera lady. Like I said, only do this if you don't care about your ball joint. I'm replacing that, so it doesn't really matter, but I'm not going to fight with it otherwise. Got her. So it does mangle up your ball joint quite good there. Like, she's pretty screwed up on the other side here. The boot's ripped and everything. You probably won't see it, but take my word for it, I ruined it. I'm replacing those anyway, so it's all good. But that's how you get that stuck hub off. In another scenario, you'll want to soak it with different penetrants and stuff like that. Set yourself up with another friggin' buddy and just kind of smash it off with like a dead blow or something like that, and you'll be good to go. But
Good to go.
so far, 100% guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, no.
Nothing better.
Nothing better. So next step, everything's off on both sides now, so now it's just a matter of pulling off the A-arms and tie rods, and then we'll get to pulling out the diff. So once that's done, the front end's tore down, and we can start doing all the projects in order. But fun little tips in the shop, hanging out with the wife, hot as balls out.
It is.
And this is supposed to be the cool day this week.
Diesel's doing absolutely nothing. Thanks for the help, buddy.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be my friggin' buddy, but he just lays down. Replace him with a 2x6.
Yep.
So yeah, that's that. And the next little battle is finicky, but we're gonna get there. And then pulling out the diff is sort of specific too. But once you've done it a few times, not a big deal. I haven't done it on this machine in particular before, but I've done it in other Can-Ams, and it's pretty much the same process. A lot of people don't realize majority of the frames are exactly the same amongst a lot of the machines. So anyway, that's it. There's your Mainville tip of the day. Pickle forks and friggin' buddy. So that was the A-arms. When it comes to doing that, everything's 15 mil. It's easy that way. I strongly suggest taking your actual winch fair lead off and peeling it all the way back instead of just the bottom two bolts. There's two of the bolts that mount the lower A-arms. They're actually kind of tricky to get at. So there's holes so you can access them from the far side, but they're slotted incorrectly. So there's all sorts of little variations are kind of off. So I had a hard time getting those bolts out. So what you do is you undo the far side and you can kind of bend them up so you can get the bolts out. I've mentioned that in a previous video. I knew that going into it, so it's not a big deal. What you will also run into is one of the bolts that's actually holding onto the diff, that's mounting the diff, will be in the way of trying to take those bolts out. So take that out first. It'll save you some time. Other than that, the only thing you got to pay attention to is there's little steel tabs that are holding your bushings in. And there's a pretty good chance they're cracked or broken because it's just a little sheet of tin and they snap regularly. So pretty good chance you're going to have to purchase those if you're going to do this just like I am. So the difficulty with that is they're hard to get on their own. You might have to buy them with the bushing kit, but it's super cheap, so it's not a big deal. If you've gotten this far into a Can-Am, it's likely something you're getting used to, so it's not a big deal. So everything's off. I like to keep the bolts and everything right where I had them, like I said. If you do have these Super ATV arms, be careful that the alignment doesn't change. As you can see, mine backed off, so I got to be real careful and tighten those down, put some Loctite on them. Because if it gets a full couple revolutions in either direction, you can actually have a huge misalignment. So that's not something you want to fall prey to when you get your bike back together afterwards. You'd be really mad. Next step for me is to obviously do the other side. I'm not going to show you that. It's the same as this side. Is to pull these tie rods off and the A-arms on the other side. And then it'll be removing the diff. So you got to cut some bands, move a shaft back, get all these mount bolts off, your breather tube or whatever sort of baffle system you've got going on, just remove that. And then, yeah, it's just a matter of kind of backing it up and tilting it out the opposite side that I'm sitting on now. So that's where I'm headed with this tear down. And once I have all this off, I'll clean it, organize it, label what's what, and I'll bring it into Can-Am so they can press in some ball joints and stuff for me. Just so they can do it properly, they can get it all done. And I'll put the bushings in and everything from Dirty Life myself. I'm gonna install the Dirty Life high lifter. Oh yeah, this one's finished. High lifter tie rod setup. The Heim joints, that's gonna be pretty sweet. So yeah, it's just a matter of getting everything sorted out, get it in a box. I'm gonna get them to press in the bearings and do all that. Just because I have enough projects going on here that I can drop it off with them. They're 2 seconds from me. I could literally walk there in probably 5 minutes. So yeah, get all that done while I'm doing some other work to this machine, because I'm still doing the rear end too with all the bushings and all that stuff. So while I'm at it, I'll do new bearings and refresh it and get another 2 years out of it. Most of the reason any of this is actually broken at this point is mostly because I was going in with the idea that they were finished, but actually a lot of them are in great shape. The removal process is what actually kind of dinged them up. When I changed A-arms, these are the original OEM ball joints that were in my stock A-arms, and I actually put them into these. So you're not really supposed to be doing that. You might as well just go new if you're in that scenario, but I did it. It worked out. and they're a little stiff now, so they're finished. But anyway, I'll quit yapping. Say hi, wife. Okay. So that'll be it for the teardown today. I have all of the A-arms off and the hubs and all that stuff. So what I'm gonna have to do now is I'm gonna buy some parts at this stage. So today's Sunday. I'll go in tomorrow and talk to them about pressing in these ball joints and new bearings. I'm also gonna get, obviously, I'm pulling out this diff anyway. I'm gonna get all new seals and probably bearings. Got to get some new bands, another seal off the engine. All stuff that is really cheap to do, and if you're already here, why not? I don't want it to be October, you know. I have a couple weeks left of good mud riding and something like that happens where, you know, I get a leak and there goes the rest of my season. So, I mean, it's really inexpensive if you're playing hard in the sport. But yeah, all the A-arms are off, and I'm pretty happy where I am today. I'll get parts and get lined up. Make sure I have everything so when I get to the job, I can do what I do best. As far as the back's concerned, I already know what I have to order, and it's super easy. There's only a handful of things to do back there, so that's all good. And then we'll start getting into videos of all sorts of other goodies. And the only reason, like I said before, I'm doing it all individual is in case somebody specifically is looking to do something like that and wants information. I can really break down what's going on with each of those things instead of just slap happy putting them all in a 20-minute video. Because I want to do it for information purposes for you guys to understand why or why not, what if, how much, is it worth it, is it not worth it. So I got to do some long-term testing, people get their questions answered, stuff like that. So as far as this goes, I'm really happy. And like I said, I'll just do individual projects from here. So I hope you enjoyed the shop day. I know some of you guys like that. So hey, if you have a couple people who like it, it's worth it for me. So for now, we'll call it quits. Very simple breakdown, and air high five. I'm gross.
Yeah.
And filthy. What do you think, Diesel? Are we done? Hey? Hey?
You look so awkward.
You don't like cameras. Hey? Don't like them. Okay, bye.
I'm out.
See you, folks.